thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Matthew Wasson. I will be the MC for this evening. If you did think it was at 6:30, you can blame Lee Brammer.
My fault.
Whoopsies. Oh well, but thank you all for being here tonight. Before we get underway, I just want to first, before we introduce the panelists of esteemed scholars up here, I also want to direct your attention to the back of the room to the other professors in the room, Mr. Martin Lang, Katie Ketelich, yep, something like that, and Pam Coggins. There are also other public discourse professors. If you have one of them, you're very fortunate. So before we get started, I would like to introduce the panelists. Anna, Brian, and Pa will be discussing their projects tonight, and I will let them talk a little bit more about their projects, and then we can get started on the questions. I know all of you have questions, and I also heard there's a little bit of a competition going on between the classes, so hopefully your class can get the most questions and get a wonderful, sweet prize, whatever that may be, at some point in time this semester. So without further ado, I'll let them introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their projects.
Alright, I'm Anna Morton. I'm currently a junior, communications and French double major at Gustavus, and I went to high school in Edina. And for public discourse, my project, the problem I identified was there's an organization that I knew of that was building an orphanage in Rwanda, and they had no plan of how to fund and to care for the kids. So I spent the semester researching child sponsorship, and at the end, my action step ended up being presenting all the information I found in a concise way and suggesting what could work for the organization as far as child sponsorship went. And I actually got to continue that work this J term. I went to Rwanda, and an organization there has a child sponsorship program, but it's really not very good. And so I was able to help them kind of give direction and vision for their child sponsorship program. And so I was able to continue my work after public discourse.
Hello, my name is Brian Simons, and I am a sophomore, and I'm from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And my problem that I encountered was back in my hometown hospital where I was working. I noticed that there were problems among the two elevator areas. One was designated for employees, and the other was for visitors. And what seemed to be happening very often was that visitors would get on the wrong elevator. They'd board onto the employee elevator. And so my problem the problem that I worked on the past semester was adding more signs in the elevator area to keep those visitors out. So I was successful with my project. I was able to add those signs, and I also ended up gaining some strong connections with some hospital administrators and was offered a better summer job doing administrative work. So that's a little bit about my project.
I'm Pa. I'm a sophomore communications studies major, and for my project I decided to try to bring compost to Gustavus, and I wanted to do this because my high school, we had a way of recycling our food waste, and we gave our food waste to pigs on a farm. And when I came to Gustavus, I was like, oh, I can't believe Gustavus is not doing anything about their food waste, because I worked in the caf, and I worked in the dish room, and a lot of food would come by, and I just have to throw them away, whole bananas, a whole plate of food, unopened water bottles or apple juice. So then I decided to take on that. So I started looking at what Gustavus students have done in the past, so that I didn't redo what they did, or I could take off from where they stopped. So then I got the support of the director of dining service, the support of the director of the Environmental Innovation Center, and the support of Warren Wunderlich, who's the director of physical plant. So getting all of their support basically made my cause legit, because I decided to go present to President Oli. So I worked on a proposal and a long speech and brought it to him, and I was very lucky to have Steve and after that, nothing really happened because President Oli was very preoccupied with like the new academic building, so he wasn't really interested. But now we got a green grant, so that money will be used towards a compost. And a senior seminar is working on that right now.
Very cool. So clearly, very different projects. I also did public discourse my freshman year. I'm a senior common studies major. My project was an expanded student recycling program, and what it was geared at was back in my high school, Duluth, Minnesota. I went to Duluth East. Basically, the project was a two-stage process implemented on awareness of recycling, and then the second part was creating a program that allowed the students to basically be in charge of recycling waste products throughout the high school. Initially, the high schools only had to have faculty and staff do any form of recycling, and that was only by means of cardboard and paper, no other waste products. And since the students created about 80% of the waste, that was a very important and I thought looming problem. So that was where my project kind of took off, and now it's with new high schools in Duluth. The new plan is also aimed at student recycling and student awareness, so there's a whole kind of facility built into the new high schools that is specifically designed just for student recycling, which is something really cool that I'm pretty proud of too. So obviously we all have very unique and very interesting projects. I'm sure you all are pretty curious and have many questions as to maybe why they chose their projects, some of the difficulties and things like that. So without further ado, we can kind of kick off the question time. If anyone has questions, raise your hand and I'll bring the mic over to you. Wonderful. That wasn't too hard.
This is for any of you. What do you wish you would have done differently, if anything?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I wish I would have done differently. For me, if you're planning to do a speech, the location of where you're going to do it, I would advise you to go to that place before you present, so that you are familiar with the place, and also so that you know what it's like. For me, like, I didn't do that, and I just thought I would go to President Oli's office and do it, but then at the time I didn't know that they were fixing his office, so then he was moved to a very, very tiny room, like the size of this stage right here. So we were at a round table, and it was the four of us at the table. So it was basically me, President Oli, and then another person. So it was very uncomfortable, and when I would speak, we would be having a conversation. Like, he would interrupt me like every other paragraph. So I would have to stop, and like it made it informal for me that I couldn't get my stuff out. And then at the end, I realized that I skipped over a paragraph because I was talking to them during. So it wasn't very effective, I felt. And if you are going to do a speech again, like, you should have very good eye contact, because I was nervous, so I didn't really look at him. So then it wasn't really engaging for him, or he wasn't really listening. Also, I would advise you to know a lot about your rhetorical audience, and you guys will learn about this. If I would have known more about President Oli, like, if I would have known that he was really preoccupied with the new academic building, or like doing other things, I would have changed my speech a little to say like, oh, don't focus so much on that, focus on this or whatever. It's just good to know them so you can persuade them, so you know what they care about, and like get them to listen.
Would you like to?
I really have nothing to add. My project went fairly smoothly on that aspect.
I would probably say just my research kind of was giant. I could do so much research, and so to really focus in on exactly what you want to do research for, even though my goal was pretty specific, the amount of research I could do was just enormous. And so I would probably have focused a little bit sooner on what exactly I wanted to do.
Hi. I was wondering, since most of you guys are communication majors, did this class make you want to be a communications major?
Yes.
Why?
see that it was more than just class. You know, you could actually like get out and do stuff. And in the classes I took last semester, you know, I was doing really big research projects in both of them, and it was really kind of intense, but it was more than just like everyday class, and I could apply it more to my life. That's what I liked about it.
I found that through other classes, I was basically just relearning what had already been known to the majority and to the public. But with this class, you really gain an understanding of a problem that nobody else knows as much about as you do. And for me, that was really empowering. And I really think that you know, that's a great thing. And it was just an exciting aspect of the project to do something fresh and something totally new and something that wasn't in the pages of a textbook.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to be a comm major before I came to Gustavus, but this class taught me a lot, and it taught me that just by communicating, it's so powerful. Like, you can do so much just by communicating with people. So in your project, you will learn how to communicate and network, and in the end, you'll be thankful for like what you're learning, and like just be proud of yourself for reaching out.
Good, thank you. One thing I forgot to mention is that when you do get called in for a question, if you could just say who your professor is for the class so they can keep a personal tally. Right now, Pam and Lee both have a point. So, yes. All right, questions? Right over here. Wonderful.
I was just wondering, I'm in Professor Lee's class. I was just wondering what methods in your research you found more beneficial to your project, and what methods did you find that didn't?
What do you mean by method?
Like your method of research, like the way you went about it.
For me, I did a lot of research on the internet and started out there kind of researching Compassion International and World Vision, the really big organizations that are out there. And then I ended up doing like a Google search because I had no idea what other child sponsorship programs could look like. And I found a couple smaller ones that were just at orphanages. And so then I ended up getting in contact with the people that had set up those websites, and then did a lot of my research through email with people in Africa.
I would say the research that we did in the library, I'm assuming that all of you will probably spend a day there also, but for me it was important to make a connection with the administrators of the hospital, and that meant for me to kind of put themselves in a position where, you know, I use the example in one of my speeches that if your grandmother was ill and she needed an emergency procedure, and they needed to use the hospital or the elevator, but a visitor was already on the elevator. So I learned a lot from my research in the library, and gained a better understanding of how other hospitals around the region and even in the nation, how they use signage and how effective and what works and what didn't was really what I found out.
Yeah, for me, I researched online, and also I didn't know a lot about composting. I didn't really know what it was, but I knew that was good. So I talked to Jim Donji, who again is the director of the Center for Environmental Innovations. So I was like, well, what's the best composting method? Or how do you compost? Or how many days do you need to wait till you turn the compost? Or he helped out a lot. So I would advise you to talk to people that's in that area, and communicate with as many people as you can. Start sending out emails right away, because a lot of times people don't get back to you until a week or 2 weeks later. So if you can get information anywhere, start broad and start shooting emails, start researching wherever you can.
Yeah, that's a really important part of the research process, is knowing that sometimes you think of research as just an old textbook or maybe something online that you Google, or start from there, or start from a scholarly source, hopefully. But another great way to do research is just by finding those people who are experts in the field. and sitting down or emailing and having a good quality conversation with them. You'd be surprised at how much you learn. From my project personally, a lot of what I learned was basically through emails and phoning the people who were in charge of waste and recycling and getting to know and really being persistent on learning about what it was all about and having those detailed conversations and then transcribing what I had learned and turning that more into my qualitative research. So, very cool. We had some questions.
I'm just wondering what was the most challenging part of the project for you and how you overcame those challenges as you encountered them.
I think for me is, I think at one point during the semester you are going to be really frustrated and feel like scared that you won't make a change. Like, because that's what happened with me and some of my friends that took the course with me, is like we kind of forgot that it was just a course, even though, I mean, of course it's really important, but then once you get really into it and really passionate, then you start to feel like, oh my gosh, like I need to change, like I need to make this change, I need to like do this really big thing, and then you get overwhelmed and stressed out, but then you need to really remember that you don't have to make a change, you know, at least making a dent or an effort, that's enough. So you will get stressed out and get stuck, but just talk to your professors, and they'll help out a lot.
I would just say, for me, it was keeping my project on a timely schedule. In my experience, the hospital was preparing for a rather large event, so it was important that, you know, I understood that my project wasn't at the forefront of what the hospital was currently aiming to do, but also to keep my problem in front of them at all times and to make sure that in the end it happened.
For me, I think the biggest challenge had to do with research and getting in contact with the people in Africa and making sure they were answering the actual questions I was asking instead of, you know, useless information that I really wasn't interested in. And so just being as clear as I could with my questions when I was talking with people from different countries was challenging for me.
I think it's important though to see that, you know, sometimes a class takes kind of on a mind of its own, as Mom mentioned. She really took on a lot of burden in the task. So it's important to keep that in mind and narrow your scope and know what you're really going for and not more or less bite off more than you can chew. And a great outlet to do that is talk to your professors and talk to other students in the classes who have taken it before. They can really help you narrow that scope down and see what's more important. So, take a question.
My question is, when you were making your initial contact with people that you didn't really know or anything, do you have, like, are there any tips that you have for addressing and introducing your project to these people for the first time?
Yeah, you just, I used email, but you can call too, that works. But what I did, I emailed a lot. So I just said, hi, I'm taking public discourse and this is my project, and I was wondering if you could help me. And then you give them, you know, like, if you want to talk to them like over Skype or something, you say, you ask them, can I talk to you over Skype? Like, these are the times that I'm available. Or if you call them on the phone, like, these are the times that I'm available. So that they know when to get back to you, so that you guys don't go back and forth, leaving voice messages. So it's really giving them all the information that you can so that they can reach you the best and easiest and fastest way.
For me, contacting people in Africa, I would send out an email to them first saying, hi, I'm an undergraduate at Gustavus Adolphus College in Minnesota doing research on child sponsorship, and I noticed that it looks like you have a pretty successful one, so I was wondering if you'd be willing to answer some questions. And then would wait for a response, and then would actually send them questions. I'm not sure if that was the most efficient way to do it, because, you know, there's time between each email, but it worked for me.
For my project, I sat down one afternoon and basically called all the hospital departments that had anything to do with the problem that I was trying to solve. And some departments got back to me and some never did. So I sent a few emails, but mostly in my circumstance, because I already was an employee, I kind of knew, you know, who was best to call, and I was able to kind of get in touch with those people and maintain a relationship, basically through email, but also a fair share of calling.
Another to this is being able to network and keep those contacts, because you never know when they'll come in handy, so, very good point. Questions from this side of the room? Yes.
I'm in Connor's class, and it's more directed towards Pa, correct? With dealing with people on campus and departments, did you find that Warren or certain other department heads were kind of difficult to deal with, or who were easier, more influential people on campus to talk to if you're trying to do a campus civic engagement project?
So I want to say, like I plan to say this to you guys, so I'm going to say it. So I would encourage you guys to like get the campus involved. Like I feel like that's a really great way to like, you know, like make your cause bigger and people know about it, and like, you know, you all have friends, and then your friends have other friends, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, like my friend's doing this, and like help out or whatever. I mean, because other people they've used the campus for their project, and I think that we are a small community, and that's why we're so close, and like I think you can always have Gustavus as like your backup. Like for me, one thing that I wish I would have done, I wish I would have collaborated with someone, because for me, I was like, okay, I don't want to share my ideas, like I want to do this, I want to make the change, or like, I just didn't, and I wish I would have, because I went to President Oli, and he was like, I want the student body to take initiative, and then, you know, I felt like, okay, I should have went to Student Senate, or I should have went to someone else, and get everyone involved, and that would have made a bigger difference. So, but then you will always hit, you know, a bump in the road, like Steve and Jim and all of them, they were really supportive, but they were also like, yeah, I don't think this is going to work. I mean, like, the school doesn't really want to do it. So I think anywhere you go, like, you'll hit those bumps, but it doesn't hurt to, like, ask as many people as you can to, like, help you out.
Yes, and another important part of that is be sure to look outside the campus too. Sometimes it's kind of picked over as far as projects, so one thing you also want to look at is either in your hometowns or out in the St. Peter community. I know there's lots of projects that are also in the St. Peter community that they still look into as well. Sometimes on campus it gets burdened down with all the projects, and so sometimes we meet a little bit more resistance when it comes to that. So just definitely keep your mind open to looking in other places as well. Questions from the middle? Yes.
This one's for Lee. How and how much did your projects change from conception to execution?
Are you talking about me?
All of them. All of them.
For me, I don't think it really changed that much, because I knew what the problem was, and I mean, actually, the way it started was I went to the person who like founded the organization I was working for and asked them if they had anything they'd want me to work on for the semester, and she was like, research child sponsorship. So I decided what the problem was so I could solve it, and so it didn't really change for me because that's how it started.
For my project, basically stayed the same. I accomplished what I set out to do, and went fairly smoothly in that aspect also.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
How did your project change from your initial idea to what you realized it was really possible?
So like in the beginning, you'll like brainstorm what you want to do, and like I wanted to use our food for pigs, just like my high school. But then there are a lot of logistics that go into that, and like a lot of things didn't work. But then I know that I still wanted to like fix the food waste problem at Gustavus. So you'll do this in class, and like you brainstorm 5 things that you want to do, and then I brainstormed 5 things, and then the best thing that I thought that I could do was propose a compost to President Oli, so I just went with that.
Questions from the side? All right, any more from the middle?
I'm in Lee's class, My question is, when you're calling or emailing people, and if you just get no as an answer, how did you deal with that? Like, how did you figure out your next step in the process if you had to talk to someone new or keep pushing for it, whatever you did?
Well, I would say with any project, it's important to remain persistent and to really keep going, because if someone says no, that's one person out of the picture, but it doesn't mean that your project can't happen. Because I would just keep striving and keep pushing and make those phone calls to anyone else that you can. That's probably the best advice I would say.
I didn't really run into many no's, so I can't answer your question.
I know from my project especially, I had a big no. One of the biggest hurdles that I came into contact with is waste management was the contracted waste supplier, or however you put it, for ISD 709, the district that I worked in. And one of the biggest things was after calling the manager for the regional office multiple times and talking to him and wanting to sit down and have a meeting and discuss this project with him, I got quite a few no's, especially after I did a lot of research and learned a little bit more about recycling, which was not something that I knew any bit at all going into this project, which is also an important thing to note, because you don't need to know everything about your project or be an expert right away. And I started talking to him about recycling and learned that he didn't know half as much or nearly as much as I expected him to about recycling. And so when I started to tell him a little bit more, and he started to figure out that this would actually do a lot of good, and not only that, but save the school district a lot of money, which would mean less money in their pocket, he was quick to say no for just about everything I even proposed. So it took quite a while for him to actually come around, and once I showed him that there was the student involvement and a lot of other positives behind this, and kind of gave him a real good reason, because he was a community member, and after the project started going home with these students that I talked to, and they would tell their parents about what was going on and stuff, I think it kind of helped a lot to leverage him and know that this was for good. And so that's kind of how I got him to roll over and eventually say yes, but yes, definitely be persistent. So, yeah.
I'm in Katie's class, and I want to ask what exactly it was, if you recall, that sparked your idea, that gave you that initial drive that you wanted to do each of your projects.
For me, I knew the person that founded the organization I was working with, and I knew that she worked in Rwanda and had already contacted her about maybe going to Rwanda. So I wanted to kind of try and spend a semester working with her to see what it was like and stuff. So that's kind of how I started, and she gave me like a couple options, and child sponsorship just for sure for me was the best one, because it related most with people.
For my project, what sparked my interest most was looking in my past and looking, because I was an employee, I kind of looked and decided that solving this problem would actually make my life easier. It would make the lives of other people easier, and employees and visitors alike. So when I was choosing my project, I just wanted to make sure that I was choosing something that would affect the lives of certain individuals, but also wasn't too large that would be too much to tackle in one semester. So when what sparked my interest was just this was something that I thought I was able to do. I thought I was able to accomplish in a relatively short period of time, and something that would make my life easier as an employee and as a citizen. So.
For me, I worked in the camp again, like I said, and in the dish room, a lot of food came by, and coming from my high school that recycled food, it was just like, I should do this. But then I came into public discourse maybe 2 weeks late, so I was like kind of panicking and I didn't really know what to do, and I thought since I was since I had that job, I could like calculate how much food was being wasted, like right at work. It was something that I knew about. It was something that I had access to, and I didn't want to pick something really big because my other idea was like immigration, but that was way too hard. I thought. But then again, like I want to say, you know, a project isn't like too much or too little, because when I picked the food waste project, I thought it was going to be really easy because like it's on campus, and I thought that it would be easy. But then you have to realize that there are so many logistics that goes into it, and so much communicating and stuff like that. So even a project that you think is small, it might turn out to be big, or a big one might turn out to be medium or whatever. But yeah.
Alright, I'm in Lee's class, and I just had a question for all of you guys. Regarding your projects, how sustainable were they, I mean, after the semester ended, or what were your initial action plan, and how sustainable it was after that?
For me, the orphanage that I was mainly working for still isn't built yet, but the director was able to take my suggestions and kind of even put them towards a program before, to fundraise before the kids are even there. And because of my project, when I was in Rwanda and the director knew that I had done all this research with child sponsorship, I was able to continue and use more of that knowledge to help a Rwandan organization with their child sponsorship program. So that sort of answers your question.
My project was completed shortly after I was done with the semester. I was able to go home and see my signs hanging on the wall, which was a great accomplishment and a great feeling. And it ended shortly after that. I was able to put the signs on the walls. So.
For me, right after my meeting with President Oli, he kind of just pushed me to the side, basically. But Warren and Steve, they were really encouraging, and they were like, you know, you're doing a great thing, and they thought that it was a great idea for me to target President Oli and really press this on him. So that felt really good. But then nothing else really happened. Student Senate had a committee on composting. I think they did propose something, but nothing really happened. And then this year there is a senior seminar working on a composting method with the Green Grant. So that's really exciting, and I really wanted to be a part of it, but then the senior seminar is like full of people that are really, really into composting and stuff. I'm like, now I don't even understand, so can't really help out, but I'm really happy that they're doing it.
I think one of the biggest things is a lot of kids come into the class and they think about the research and the work, and this sounds so daunting and so intimidating. And I just wanted to ask all of you, did you feel like at any point like this was something that was impossible, like a monumental task that you couldn't do in possibly one semester as a college student?
For me, absolutely. I felt like, who am I to research child sponsorship and potentially shape how the lives of these kids are, how they raise money for the lives of these kids? Like, who am I to do that? But once I kind of got over that and actually dug into the research and stuff and found out a lot of information, my research was not exhaustive by any means, and I would love to continue it, but I felt like I was able to get enough information that it was comprehensive enough to present something that really made sense and that could actually work.
No matter how big or small the change that you strive to do, you're going to make a difference in at least one person's life. So I encourage you to just keep that in mind, and whether your project fails miserably or is a great success and you work on it for the rest of your life, it's going to be like Matt said, it could be a daunting challenge right now. It could seem that way, but as you get into it farther and farther, you may see that this is definitely possible, and little step by little step, you're going to hopefully achieve what you want to.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I would just, again, say, go to your professors if you get stuck or you feel like there are too many no's or something. Just talk to your professors, because I had Chris, and when I was stuck and scared, I went to him and he was like, he really helped me out. He looked at my speech and he was like, okay, I understand this. Like, yeah, you're doing this and it makes total sense. Yeah, like he was just so encouraging because like if you look over your plan over and over again, you start to feel like this is not a good plan. But then, you know, if you gave it to someone else to look at, they remind you of what you're doing and of your cause, and it's just encouraging.
That is important is being able to, as my microphone is muted, that is important, is being able to realize that the professors and everyone in this room, we all want to help you. And so take advantage of that. That's why we're here, and that's why Ann and I are opting to help out and be teaching assistants this semester, because we want to give back and help you. So definitely seek us out. That's why we're here. Stay after, ask questions, really get to know, pick our brains, because we've been through the project, we've been on both sides, the ups and the downs, obviously. And so definitely use everyone, and the professors are their advantage. They're the ones who are the experts in this class. They created it. So it's very unique, and it's a privilege to be taking it. So more questions? Yes?
I'm in Katie's class. This question is more directed to Paul. Like for your on-campus project, did you ask like other Gustavus students what they felt about what you're trying to accomplish?
Did I ask them what?
Did you ask like other Gustavus students like how they feel about
So
your project?
So what I did was I looked at the Gustavian Weekly Archives, and that's the newspaper on campus. So I looked it up, and I keyword searched like compost or like food waste. So then I read a lot of what students have done in the past, like way past, I don't know, a long time ago. So like students have like done things where like they've collected food, like working in the dish room collected food, and then like try to like tell it to the student body, or like try to make up signs and put it on campus and all these stuff. So then a lot of stuff I found that didn't work, so I didn't do it. And then the Greens tried to do a compost, but then they didn't know how to take care of it, so that's why it didn't work. The Big Hill Farm tried to do it, but they didn't really have transportation to get the food from the cafeteria to the farm, so it didn't work out. So then I thought of ways of how we could fix that. So I thought physical plant could do the transportation. We could have work study taking care of the compost. So what I'm saying is I went to President Oli, and I didn't tell him, I didn't just say, I think we should have a compost and this is why. I said, I think we should have a compost and this is the plan. Like I have a plan for us to do it. So you have to think about logistics, but in looking at the Gustavian Weekly Archives, I looked at what students thought about food waste and stuff like that, and then I went to Warren Wunderlich, who again is the director of physical plant, and he's like in charge of like recycling, and I talked to Steve, who is the director of dining service, and he knows how much food waste we waste. So then I asked them if the stuff that was being said in the weekly was correct, so that I knew if these numbers were correct. And sometimes they were like, those numbers are not correct, and like they gave me new numbers. So for that, like make sure you have the right data. But then that's the only way that I really found out what Gusties were thinking about food waste.
I'm with Connors again, and this is directed to all three of you. When you're doing your projects and you're doing one-on-one discussions or meetings with other individuals who had influence over projects such as the director of the hospital or administrative people, or again, I don't know who's in charge of organizations in Rwanda and stuff, but if you did meetings and such, did you bring with you packets or portfolio of such of your project that had numbers or statistics or plan and stuff, so that they had something material to hold on to and look at while you're presenting, or do you think that it wasn't necessary?
Yeah, for mine, when I went and visited those administrators, I took with me my project proposal, and so that had some of the numbers and the statistics from what other hospitals were doing as far as signage and things like that. But more importantly, it had what my signs could possibly say and the different options and kind of just all different alleys. I mean, sure I was prepared, whatever question they were going to ask me, I would be prepared to answer. So, just,
For me, like, there's so many different ways you can do this, but another thing that I wish I would have done is have visual aids. Like, I wish I would have taken pictures of the dish room and how much food that was, because I don't think it meant anything to President Oli when I said, people are wasting food. Like, it didn't mean anything to him or anyone else if I were giving that speech too, because they didn't see how much it was. I can say how much it was, like 100 gallons a day or whatever, but it didn't mean anything, so I wish I would have done that. You can do a presentation, or you could just talk, like I just talked, but I think it would be more effective if, we had those statistics on a projector or something like that.
For me, I did a one-on-one with the director of the organization. That was my action step, and so I did have a document where I kind of had some important things that I had found across my research about, how much organizations charge for child sponsorship on a monthly basis, or kind of information like that. And then I had suggestions, and I physically handed her the paper and then kind of went through it with her, and that seemed to work really well. It was kind of impersonal, but that was really okay for what my project called for.
I think we'll take one more question from students. Is there another good question? Yes.
I'm in Lee's class, and I was wondering what were some of your suggestions for the director?
They involved how much to charge. It was between $30 and $40 per month, and then with just what exactly to pay for, with food and schooling, because schooling in Africa can be pretty costly, and that's really important. And then I found some organizations that have a discretionary income, and so you set aside $5 or $10 a month and use that to benefit the whole community, so that there's less, sometimes there can be jealousy or just some not so good emotions between children who are sponsored and those who aren't. So if you're helping the community as a whole, that's beneficial, and some more things like that.
Let's take one more question from students. Someone who hasn't asked a question. You all thought of questions in class. There we go.
I'm in Lee's class. If you could pick one thing that you took away from this experience, the first thing you think of when you think of your public discourse project, what would you say that one thing would be?
Self-confidence. Just that I can, I took on this project being I don't know if I can actually do this, but to be able to actually spend the time on the research and then, go through it all and decide what's important. And it was just such a good experience for me to then be able to take all that information and present it and actually maybe make a difference, and to have my voice heard, and just the self-confidence that I got from that was really valuable.
I would say for me it was connections. I was able to gain a job afterwards, which was a great result, not only for myself to be able to do something for the community, but also individually for myself. So
I'd say for me, leadership skills, because before this project, I never really took on anything really big, and I was always scared to, so I stayed away from leadership skills and stuff like that, or leadership positions. So this class really forced me to get out of my comfort zone and be the one who's asking questions, be the ones who is calling the rules or whatever, just bothering people. Basically you're gonna be bothering people, getting in their faces and asking them for things and asking them to do this for you. So I never did that because I didn't really like bothering people. I don't I'm just myself. So walking away from this class, I had something to hold. You will have a portfolio to hold at the end of the semester, and you'll be able to call it your own. And show it to anyone and tell them that this is what I did. And another great thing is you can look back at it, like in the future you want to do something and like, you'll think, oh, what am I supposed to do? And you go back and look at what you've done before and it really guides you, because I've done that a couple times.
So self-confidence, connection, and leadership skills. And for me, one of the biggest things that I learned was time management and organization. Coming to school, I took this in the fall of my freshman year, and now that I'm a senior, it feels like forever ago. The biggest thing coming in, I did not have any organizational skills. I didn't have a planner, I didn't have a calendar, I never used email in my life. AIM was the closest thing I came to like digital talking to someone, to any kind of communication for that matter. So the biggest thing coming in was learning all those skills, and having that skill set, but also being able to manage. Now I feel like I can take on multiple things and put a lot more on my plate, and that's directly due to this class. It gave me the confidence to be able to do that and confidently plan my days and be able to manage that. So it's something that's very important for that. And a really cool thing that Pop pointed out was that you do build a portfolio and that you can talk about these projects long after you're here. You can use them on your resumes, you can use them in interviews. I know personally, the biggest thing that I've talked about in interviews is my public discourse project. People are fascinated by it, they want to learn more about it. And in doing so, I can talk about a lot of other skill sets that I have just from this project and things that I've taken away. So definitely use that to your advantage. Really cool thing about this class is you kind of become a part of a public discourse community on campus. Talk about this class mostly with high regard after they've taken it because of all the things that they've done. I have never really heard a negative thing about this class, which is something that's really cool to say about this, especially because it started right here. And with that, so there's some really cool national attention that has been garnered from this class, and so I'm going to turn the mic over to Lee so she can tell a little bit more about the class and all the great things about it.
I hadn't really planned on taking the mic tonight. I thought this was a great night for the students to talk to you about their experience from their piece. So, but thanks to you, Matt. Matthew did a fine job doing this, and thanks to the three of you for your fine job. I liked when Matthew talked about this as a community, and I do think that public discourse students do form a community, both in their individual class sections, but then afterwards, which is perfect because we'll actually be, I think, asking you to do some research and participate in some research for us as part of this semester and maybe into the fall and the spring next semester, and have you come back and maybe sit in on some focus groups with us. As a result of the class, we have garnered some national attention and have become a model. Apparently, we are called the Gustavus model for teaching public speaking in an innovative fashion. So it's been a lot of fun for us. Martin and I and Sarah Walter, who used to teach here and will be returning in the fall. For those of you who are looking for a great course in the fall, Sarah is a fantastic teacher who will be rejoining us. We've gone out and done some presentations on public discourse. We had a great time. This past November, we had 16, 17, I think, professors from across the nation who came to listen to us for 3 hours, chat about public discourse, and we could talk probably for another 6, if you've ever heard me talk about public discourse. So it's actually been a heck of a lot of fun, and I think I told my 8 a.m. section this on Tuesday. It is the most I will never in the rest of my life do anything that's more valuable. So it's been fun to be part of that process and be joined by new people in that process that bring new ideas. So thank you all for joining this community. Thanks to Matthew and Anna and Brian and Pa for sharing ideas. We have more Frost Your Owns back here. And we also have people that are more than willing to sit around and chat with you for as long as you have questions. So take advantage of us now.